Hey guys, and welcome to the 2-6 guide. It's time to deal with the devil incarnate, and not just because he tears people's hearts out, but because he has an annoying boss fight. If you have 2 players dropped in, drop one out. This can be done at the end of 2-5 as well. This is a common spot for redropping, so make sure to use the spacebar strat discussed in the 2-4 guide. You want to be controlling Willy. Run backwards into the water, similarly to the strat way back in 1-1. Once the cutscene is done, jump to the left onto the rope and climb up a bit. Then jump onto the bar as soon as you can and get all the way up to the top. This is because it's faster to jump than to climb, and you can't jump onto the same rope higher than where you start from. Once you get to this point, there's a strat split. For strat 1, line yourself up with this part of the hatch and do a slide jump up to the top. This is actually quite tricky, and my co-op partner can vouch for me on that one. For strat 2, the easier, slightly slower method, jump onto this left platform and then jump across to the right onto the higher platform. This one's a lot easier, so it may be worth learning both so you can use 2 as a backup. Okay, once up to the top, run straight ahead and go through the transition. Drop in Indy and run to the right with both players. Avoid the traps and go to the bush with Willy. For the whole of this room you basically want to be holding right and go towards the door. With Indy, kill all the enemies and grab the sword. Then as long as you aren't incredibly unlucky, there should be at least one more sword for short round. Grab it quickly before it despawns. Switch back to Indy and push Willy in the bush. Once you get fairly close to the door, peel off and get into the corner and stand still. With Willy, slot in between Indy and the rock on the floor and hold directly right, preferably with the D-pad. This should push Indy straight through the door. Technically there's a theoretical strat where you can get 3 swords, go out of bounds and use the swords later on, although this hasn't been made consistent enough to be worth attempting, but maybe in the future. Okay, this room has some cool but tricky movement. First you have to blindly jump bottom right with Indy and along the wall with Willy. You can then jump over this fence with her, and with Indy jump across to this whip platform. You then want to run slightly diagonally and jump right at the corner, curve around the wooden fence onto the bar and stay as tight as possible. From this point onwards you can drop Willy out at any time, just do it when you feel most comfortable. Personally I recommend doing it while you whip across this platform. Then do a curve jump towards the camera, looping to the right until you face completely away. With a bit of practice you should be able to make this every time. Once on top, run towards this trap and break 2 of the closest plants. Then fall into the trap, and before you hit the transition you want to swap to Willy. It might be worth experimenting with this to see how early and late you can swap with the strat still working. Then immediately swap back and you should be onto the map. Run towards the door and avoid the skull. Once just past the door, jump up and edge back towards the camera until you're up against the door, then run back into the transition. Okay, here we go.
This is where the fun begins.
The way this fight works is in waves, similar to most other bosses. Each wave will include a fight of thuggies, a fight with Mola Ram, then throwing the sword. Assuming everything goes well, this should only take 2 cycles, although it could also become 3, then 4, with just some small mistakes. Firstly, the fight with the thuggies is very easy, just fight them as fast as you can, it's simple. Then the fight with Mola Ram is a bit harder. There are a few rules you have to stick to unless you want to confuse him. Rule number 1, don't stand too close to each other. This confuses Mola Ram and he doesn't know who to attack and he just kind of stands there confused. Number 2, don't attack too quickly. This is a more recent discovery, by us, which has made us a million times more consistent at this fight. Previously, when attacking Mola Ram at max speed, he wouldn't get damage and just stand there like a Chad taking punches. This is because of the combo mechanic. Essentially when you spam your attacks, your character will do a sequence of movements, one after the other, and this is what causes issues. If you would avoid this by spacing out your inputs for punch, then this will never be an issue. This is also true for using a sword, so space out your attacks like this. Tap, 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 tap. Rule number 3, try to fight Mola Ram along the bridge. Once you do enough damage to him, Mola Ram will force choke you and the other player has to come in and hit him. Making sure you're sent far away prevents Mola Ram from blocking the bridge and thus the other player from getting to him. Rule number 4, never fight with low hearts. This is so important. Have at least 3 hearts. If you have 3, it's risky enough as Mola Ram could still kill you, so 4 is playing it safe. To make this easy, jump off the map after the thuggies fight and you get all your hearts back. And don't worry, you keep your sword. Mola Ram will always jump near the centre, so just have any character below 3 hearts jump off at the other player in the middle of the bridge. Okay, so with all those rules out of the way, we can finally talk about the routing. Fight the first wave with short round on player 2 and switch to Willy once you respawn as player 1. Stand 2/3 along the bridge and wait for Mola Ram. Follow the previous instructions as best you can. Assuming everything went well, throw the 2 swords at the same time. A quick tip for this bit, just before you plan to throw, you might want to do a quick attack with both players to make sure both swords will be out. The enemies will always come from the direction that Mola Ram jumps away. Fight them and pick up the sword with any character, then fight Mola Ram again and see where he jumps. For the player with the sword, wait out of the way and let the player without a sword fight the enemies. Then pick up that sword and do another double throw. And there we go. There are a few more things that can go wrong, and things you can and can't do to avoid them. Number 1, the sword teleports up to the top of the rocks. This happens because of Indy's animation. Avoid fighting the enemies with Indy. Number 2, sword falls off the map. Again, same advice, just fight with Willy in short round. Oh my fucking god. Number 3, you miss a sword. This is scarily common. Just be cool and do one more cycle. Not the end of the world, especially this late on in the run. And number 4, only 1 sword from room 3. Similar to above, it just means you have to take an extra cycle. There's nothing you can do to prevent this, unfortunately. I think that's everything for this stupid level and for this very intensive film. Strat Refresh is coming up next. I've got a lot to recap from film 1, so watch out for that soon.